Your middle schooler says, I don't feel like it. Oh. And everything inside you wants to believe that if they were just more motivated, maybe more confident, to just discipline, we wouldn't have to fight with them. And that's where we get tripped up. Because what looks like a motivation or a discipline problem is actually a sequence problem. Because we assume that if capability, motivation, and discipline came first, persistence would follow naturally. But developmentally, it works in the opposite direction. Persistence builds capability, not the other way around. Researchers like Angela Duckworth's grit is a good example of this, consistently showing that motivation is far more an emotional result of effort rather than a cause of effort. Kids don't persist because they feel like it. They begin to feel like it because they persist long enough to experience progress. So when a kid says, I don't feel like doing this, that's not a signal that something's wrong with them. It's a reflection of where they are in the process. They haven't yet built the capability that would make that task feel rewarding. And without that reward, their brain has very little reason to engage. It's not rewarding to keep going, which is why this part feels so uncomfortable for us, because we want it to be easier for them. We want them to have the confidence, the motivation, the readiness, the discipline, the buy-in to show up to what's important. But that's not how it develops. Capability is built through repetition, and repetition requires persistence, and persistence almost always shows up alongside resistance. So we got to expect the moaning, the groaning, the delay, the negotiation, not as breakdowns, but just as part of the process. And in those moments, they're watching us closely, trying to determine whether or not that emotional reaction from them is enough for us to shift the goalposts, to quit and say, whatever, fine. Because if it is, the lesson becomes the discomfort is something we use to escape rather than something we have to move through. The work is not to eliminate the feeling for them or overpower the feeling. It's to stay steady in the expectations while reducing the intensity of that emotion. Keep it small, make it doable, and we allow the feeling without letting it dictate the outcome. Listen, you don't feel like it. I understand, but we got to start with at least 5-10 minutes. Often that's enough to create a little bit of momentum, because what they actually need is the lived experience of beginning when they don't feel like it, to continue while they're uncomfortable, and then discovering that on the other side of that, they're more capable than they actually thought. And it's only after that experience, after some small evidence of competence, that motivation actually shows up. So persistence has to come first, because growth doesn't start when it's easy or when they feel ready, but it starts right there in the resistance.